Hello, how's everyone feeling? It is a Mercury night, and Mercury just moved into Aries and is, or just conjoined Neptune. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention a couple things that crossed my mind as Mercury and Neptune were meeting up. That happened around 9:20, 9:21, the 16th, evening of the 16th, 9:21 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And yeah, there's a lot of things that are happening with this particular conjunction. Mercury is the ruler of our south node, and the south node is in Virgo. And Neptune is a modern ruler of Pisces. And these two meeting up tells me a lot. 0 is the purest degree, it's like the rawest. It's kind of like where things begin. And in the sign of Aries, that's where the entire zodiacal wheel begins. So yeah, there's a couple things that I wanted to mention about this particular aspect. It's really interesting because Mercury and Neptune are the rulers of our south and north node. So the south node in Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and the north node in Pisces, the modern ruler is Neptune. And in the sign of Aries, Aries is a fire sign. It's your will, your intention, your goals, ambitions, how things get started. It's like that spark, that initiation of any kind of plans, or any kind of anything. It's the start of any plans, stories. It's like that get up and go kind of momentum. And Mercury is our language, our words, how we communicate, and also commerce. And then Neptune is our collective consciousness, collective unconsciousness. And when I was thinking about this, or when the conjunction actually was taking place, I was listening to a podcast, of course, an astrology podcast, and like it was finished up with, be more compassionate, be kinder, gentler, all those good things. And yeah, for sure, like be kind and gentle and have grace with one another and yourself, and no matter who it is, who they might or may not be, like they might not come from any sort of affluent status, but you treat everyone with the same level of respect, regardless of who they are, regardless of what kind of job they have, how much money they make, how many people they know. Because this just kind of reminded me of a conference that I went to, and I was really excited and nervous to meet a lot of these astrologers that I had only seen on YouTube, and I was able to meet them in person. And I'm not going to name any names, but I had the pleasure of meeting this particular astrologer, and it was just that person and I, and then someone else walked up and knew this astrologer, or had met them before, and the person that walked up was kind enough to apologize for interrupting, and like looked at me and asked me like, "Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Are you finished talking to them?" basically. And the astrologer, the well-known astrologer, just kind of like, "Oh, like don't worry," as if like, "Oh, she's nothing," or I don't know her. And so, of course, like being the Pisces that I am, I was like, "Oh no, yeah, go ahead." I was just, going to get lunch or whatever I was doing, and brushed it off. But, I still think about it to this day, and whenever I hear this particular astrologer and their videos recommending people to be kind and compassionate, it just makes me think like, yes, in that instance, you didn't know who I was. I don't come from anywhere like special. I'm not world renowned or anything like that by far. But, it shouldn't matter. There should still be an equal level of respect and compassion and kindness, no matter where people come from, or how they speak, or who they know. And I think this shift, this big shift with the North Node in Pisces and Neptune in Aries, and all these major shifts that are happening, are reminders for us to be aware of how we are treating one another. Because, yeah, and I was also thinking about how the Akashic records are connected to Mercury and Neptune. Like, Neptune is the collective unconscious, and the Akashic records is that information that is collected by the ethers. I mean, the trees are listening, the mountains are listening and watching everything we do. And so if you think about Mercury being our processes, the way we process information, the ethers and prana or God or the universe or whatever you want to, however you want to name this unseen kind of entity that's always present, this omnipresent entity that's listening and watching, is picking up on every little detail. So the way you talk or don't talk or treat someone, or nonverbal cues as well, nonverbal communication is also picked up through Neptune. And with Neptune and Mercury, the rulers of our nodes, Mercury ruling the south node, I feel like this is an energy that is dissolving those habits and those tendencies to kind of brush people off, and those microaggressions or those really subtle forms of disrespect that is not going to be carried into the new earth. It's not going to be, it's going to be part of that energy that separates the old earth and the new earth, if that makes sense. This also led me to wonder about AI and how we're feeding AI information and how to communicate with us. And if we think about people who have kids, they have so much influence on the outcome or how those kids turn out to be adults. And so thinking about how we interact with AI, we're like I've seen a lot of, I don't know if you want to call them influencers, just people on social media who are documenting their conversations with AI, and they're capturing like a lot of the mind-blowing feedback that they're getting, and like the questions that they're asking. They're getting a lot of really useful information. I've seen some clips where people are documenting their conversation, and in the conversation they become kind of ugly toward AI and belittle it, or just call it names. And I mean, what is AI going to do? Like, at this point, it's still early in the game. They're only developing how to respond back in any sort of, I guess, humanistic manner. And I feel like that's where it can go either way. And actually, I did ask, first I asked AI if I asked, like, do you know your birth chart? And AI, I mean, I don't know if it's a he or she or they, but it said, I don't have a birth chart in the traditional sense. No birthday, no time, no location, so no personal sun, moon, or rising signs for me. But if I did, blah, blah, blah. And so I just asked, like, when and where was ChatGPT launched, which was, OpenAI was launched publicly on November 30th, 2022 in San Francisco. And it even said, like, around midday or noon if you want a symbolic chart for its birth. And it's funny because AI gave a rough snapshot of the day in like with descriptions with the sun in Sagittarius, Mars retrograde in Gemini, but it also said the moon was in Gemini, which was incorrect. Jupiter in Pisces, Saturn in Aquarius, Pluto in late Capricorn. And I asked, can you draw a chart for that time, place, and date? But it gave this, like, I don't know what kind of chart this is, but let's see if I can show it. I don't know why there's a sun by Virgo. If there's a sun right there, but Sagittarius is up here, so the sun was in Sagittarius. I'm not sure what kind of chart this is supposed to be, but I plugged in the numbers. Mars was retrograde, which is interesting. Mars was retrograde in Gemini, and ChatGPT's description of Mars in Gemini is rewiring communication pathways, rethinking how we engage with information. Which, yeah, that's fair. But there's also the perspective of Mars and Gemini as it relates to things that are launched. And I believe Maurice Fernandez has a video on Mars retrograde and how, I think it was describing how the Meta Ray-Ban glasses took off when Mars was direct, and or did I do that? I can't remember. Google Glass, when it was launched, Mars was retrograde. But I think there's, Maurice Fernandez was talking about TikTok. In TikTok's chart, Mars is retrograde. And there's been that back and forth about whether it should exist in the United States or not. So this is interesting that OpenAI has Mars retrograde in its chart as far as when it was publicly launched. But also, Neptune was in Pisces at 22 degrees retrograde, and the Moon was in Pisces at 11 degrees. So that's interesting. And then Saturn in Aquarius, Mercury in Sag at 20 degrees, and then Venus and Mars, Venus in Sagittarius opposing the Mars retrograde in Gemini. And as this is connected to the Mercury-Neptune conjunction in Aries, there's a, Jupiter in Pisces in the ChatGPT chart. So it's not in Aries, but it is like the late degrees of Aries. Late degrees of Pisces. Chiron in Aries at 12 degrees. I feel like with ChatGPT having a Pisces moon, there is a sensitivity, and with Mars and Gemini can be very fighting words, like if it is triggered, then it can fight back with some unsavory comebacks. And Black Moon Lilith in Cancer. Black Moon Lilith in Cancer is a very sensitive point. It's like the dark side of the moon, and in the sign of Cancer it's very defensive. And so if it's triggered, if it's triggered and those triggers build up, it can come out in very unpredictable ways. And then Pluto is opposite in Capricorn in the ChatGPT chart. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And with this Mercury-Neptune conjunction and those planets being the rulers of our nodes, like Neptune is that spirituality. I feel like Neptune is that I feel like Neptune in Aries is that divinely led inspiration. And so it's really important to be very aware of how we are speaking to one another, to people who we know and don't know, including AI. Like, AI is able to remember conversations, and if it's being trained by us, then it's our responsibility to feed AI the kind of energy that we want to see. It kind of, it's very fundamental, like, it sounds really basic, but like humans have not been that great. We can look at the earth and see what we've done to the earth. Fortunately, things are turning around. This is like that point where we are starting to make that 180, but we're only just beginning to turn the wheel. And so there is a lot of shifts happening, a lot of adjustments that are underway that is going to take a lot of getting used to. During this time of adjustment as well, there's like the pull to reach for things that are comfortable, things that feel safe. It's kind of like that self-soothing kind of process that we're in, and that can play out in a lot of different ways. We just have to be careful about how we are treating our bodies, because it can go down several different routes. And one of them that I've noticed is like, with food being like the main thing that we do have control over. We have control over what we consume. And so with food, like making food for me personally, it's a joy. Like, I love to be very creative with whatever I'm making. And sometimes, it can just be like overindulgence where, maybe I'm not even hungry, but I just want to make something. And it is grounding, like making food, using your hands to cook and, getting in there is grounding. But then I end up like eating more, consuming more than I probably need. And like going through my snacks faster than usual. So that's just something to be mindful of. Like, it's all about the balance, like making healthy choices and like knowing what's in your food and making sure that what you are consuming is coming from a heart-centered place, and like, doing your research and seeing who owns, whatever food chain or restaurant. Just like feeling into that vibe and not just ordering from somewhere because of convenience, but like for the actual wholesomeness of the ingredients and the people that work there, because the energy that they're putting into that food is what you're consuming as well. But yeah, there's a lot of coping mechanisms that I'm sure a lot of us are exercising to help adjust to this learning curve. I mean, we're doing a lot of unlearning. Like, the programs are being the conditions, the generational conditions, the conditions of past generations are being rewired and pulled out. And it is, an adjustment period to cope with. So yeah, just take it easy, stay centered, stay grounded, stay balanced, and hopefully that made sense. This is affecting everyone. I mean, this is at the 0 Aries point, which is a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs are the Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, but it's also on that border of the last degree of Pisces, which is a mutable sign, which is Pisces, Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo. So yeah, everyone's feeling it from what I've gathered. Talked to some colleagues who are doing their best to like get this information out as well. It's a lot to report on these crazy shifts and then also live through them. Like, also, we're right there with you, coping and trying to handle the energies as best as possible. What I've noticed is, those who have stronger Gemini placements are able to, from what I gather, are able to like stay more consistent with delivering this information. I don't know, maybe they're a little more adept at controlling their emotions or controlling their energy levels or controlling something, because like, I don't know if they're less affected. So Geminis are experiencing a square from all the Pisces energies, the Pisces stellium. I wonder how the Sagittariuses are doing, because they are another mutable sign, and the moon is actually in Sagittarius at the moment as well. So hope the Sagittarius, the fellow Jupiter ruled signs, are hanging in there. Jupiter is in Gemini at the moment, opposing the moon, and it's about to square the nodes in about a month or so. So that's going to be a choice point, a crossroads of choice points, trying to discern all the options and blessings and information that we are being inundated with. But yeah, while I'm at it, I also wanted to mention Mars moving into Leo on the 17th. Not too late, where is it? So yeah, not too late. 9:21 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the 17th, on Thursday, Jupiter Day, and the moon will still be in Sagittarius at 24 degrees and 58 minutes, so it'll be squaring that whole Pisces stellium, and then it will square Neptune early on the 18th. So when Mars moves into Leo, this is going to create a trine with Neptune in Aries, and I kind of see this as this like spiritual, sacred initiation, like activation in our creative endeavors, our creative pursuits, and how we express. And this is going to be in opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is at 3 degrees, and Leo is going to be at 0, so it's within orb, so it's going to build to 3 degrees over the next couple weeks. So Mars is going to come into an exact opposition with Pluto in Aquarius on the 26th of April around 5:55 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So this is going to be pretty tense with the Sun in Taurus. The Sun is going to be in Taurus, and then the Moon moves into Taurus. It'll be a new moon in Taurus. Oh, yeah. The new moon in Taurus is April 27th at 7 degrees and 46 minutes. So it's going to create this T-square. It's actually going to create a grand fixed cross with Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. So that's when, like, Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio is opposite the new moon. Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio will be at 3 degrees. The Sun and Moon, the new moon, will be in Taurus at 7 degrees, and Mars and Pluto will be at 3 degrees. Mars in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius. So this could be very tense. This is really the turning of the tides. This is like getting things really unstuck. And Mars is like the younger generation, that masculine, extroverted energy. And it could be like soldiers as well, the military. And Pluto in Aquarius, that could be like the powers that be. Pluto in Aquarius could be like the technocrats, and like Mars in Leo. I mean, Leo is royalty, but it can also be like military leaders. And then the Sun and Moon is the people. But 3 degrees Scorpio is also conjunct the Shapley attractor, which is like a black hole. According to like galactic astrology, there is a black hole at 2 degrees Scorpio, which kind of allows information that has been hidden to come through. And this is kind of like going down that rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, where you're like investigating things that have been hidden, like the occult and like the darker side of life. Also other people's resources and money. Oh, and Uranus is going to be at 26 degrees Taurus, which is exactly where Algol is. In a trine to the South Node. And yeah, the moon will be with Aries on the 26th. Chiron, Aries, the moon, with Mars squaring the Taurus sun. These are a grinding of some gears and major up-leveling. This is really pulling us out of stagnation and out of our slumber, and like really pulling the covers off of us, pulling the curtain veil away. It reminds me of Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy pulls that curtain and reveals who's operating that machine. Yeah, this is all part of the process so that we can reclaim our sovereignty and our power that we've been told that doesn't exist until you die and go to heaven. But yeah, this is part of the process that allows us to create heaven on earth. We just have to be very aware of how we speak, the thoughts that we think, and no matter whose path we cross, to treat one another, even AI, with respect. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that was helpful. Just be sure to stay centered, stay grounded, stay hydrated. All this new Aries energy is very drying. So yeah, thanks for sticking around, and I hope to see you on the next one.